you doing, sir?
How's it going, man? Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Congrats on the movie. I thought you did a great job.
Thanks, man.
So, is it true or not true that you only agreed to do this movie when they added a dancing scene because you wanted to show more after Eurovision of your ability on the dance floor?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and work some kind of dance into everything from now on. Don't you think?
Oh, why wouldn't you?
I mean, it's classic Hollywood.
Right. 100%. I am curious though, how did this script get to you? Because I don't necessarily know if a lot of people realize you can speak German.
This is true. I think more people realize it in Germany because I did a movie there about 13 years ago. It was a biopic of Hildegard Knef, and her second husband was an Englishman who spoke German. And so I spoke a little German in that movie. And I guess somewhere in the German film industry, when they were looking to cast this, somebody said, "Oh, I think Dan Stevens speaks German," and they were very actively looking for a non-German or a foreign actor who could speak German for this role, just to kind of give it a little, I don't know whether it's exoticness or just a kind of foreign quality, to the role that is required to kind of both. You need someone who can get their head around their mouth around the language and the sort of complex German, but also to have a slightly otherworldly thing about them.
What was it though about this script and story that said, "Oh, I totally want to do this"?
I think it was just how kind of simultaneously sweet and funny and kind of offbeat and weird, but also how kind of profound I found it. Like it's sometimes you read something and it's kind of a bit glib and it's funny, but it sort of it has no depth. And then sometimes you read things that are very earnest and serious and are trying to tackle big issues, but there's no humor. And this seemed to have a bit of both, and in a delightfully German kind of way, was able to tackle really epic philosophical concepts in a quite kind of, pleasant, easy way. And to inject, some sort of screwball comedy humor into something that's really tackling questions about humanity and how we've got here and where we're going. And, I found it just very, very moving on all levels. And this was just from my first translation with my old German dictionary dusted off the shelf. This was before I even got to talk to Maria and was delighted to find that those were all the things that she and her partner Jan, who co-wrote the screenplay, all those things they were interested in kind of mining with this script.
This is an interesting film because you have to deliver a particular type of performance and you have to do it in German. So at any point were you like, "Ooh, I don't know if I can do this"?
I mean, I like that feeling. So if there's a role where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, if the answer is I think I can, then it's the right kind of challenge where I'm like, if I answer with like, I just don't think I can do this. Like, I don't know how I would pull this off, then it gets rejected or it doesn't happen, but if there's enough of it, like I felt the same way with Eurovision, to be honest, where I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but I think I'm going to try. Like there was something inside me where I was like, I want to try this one. And I definitely felt this with this. It was like such a huge challenge at a very challenging time, I should add, like last summer. The idea of flying to Germany to do this seemed mad, but it was kind of the right kind of mad. Where I was like, I think if this is the right kind of mad, if this is the mad I like, and I think it is, then this could be great.
The thing about this film is that it tackles and talks about very issues that I believe are not so far away, because robots, as we all know, are advancing every day. You see videos, you're like, get the hell out of here. So did you have any sort of like change in perspective on what robots might mean to society after making this film? Because I think it asks some really big questions.
It really does. And I think you're right that the technology is getting frighteningly close. And yet, I think the things that we're frightened of are often not the things we should be frightened of. I think, there's all sorts of other problems. And I think what the what the film really highlighted for me was actually kind of reflected more back on humanity. And so it got me thinking, not so much like the movie doesn't lean very heavily on the tech. It doesn't look at the sort of, it's like, well, exactly what, what module are you using here? Like it doesn't really get into the wiring or anything like that. It's much more about the sort of philosophical questions behind it and the ideas of humanity. And also, especially last year, the theme of loneliness seemed to really resonate, and I guess still does, that, the idea of, that perhaps one of these things could give somebody, a tremendous amount of companionship. And there's a beautiful scene where the gentleman who we see at the beginning of the movie, she runs into him in the street with his partner. And he just gives I think it really kind of explains the flip side of it so beautifully, that scene. And just like, the positives of it that we might not even have considered, and certainly Alma hasn't really considered until that point. And the whole movie is sort of framed around her writing up this report and kind of analyzing this as an experience. So it's not just like, hey, I've ordered this off the internet and here he is in his packaging, off we go. It's like, what do you think about this? So we're encouraged to kind of think along with her, I think, the whole time. And it is. We're on the cusp of something where it's like it hasn't quite happened yet, but I love that kind of near future sci-fi that could be like 3 weeks in the future. You know what I mean? And like, I don't think any of us will be surprised if in like 3 weeks, Collider runs a piece where it's like, hey, there's an Android partner program that has just been released in, I don't know, Korea or something. You're like, yeah, great. I totally believe that,
Yeah, 100%. What is the secret for you on not blinking? Because I love when you watch, for people that don't realize, actors are very good at not blinking, because and I've watched so many people and they could do like a long scene and they're just, with their eyes and perfectly. So what's the secret for you?
I have no idea. I think I was also told that it's very hard to sneeze on screen. Like you can need to sneeze before you do a scene or go on stage sometimes. And I remember like being in the wings with an older actor once in the theater. I was like, I think I need to sneeze. And they're like, don't worry, you'll get out there and it just doctor theater. It'll just go away. And it's true. Like you sort of step out there. It's like, oh, my character doesn't need to sneeze.
But did you ever practice when you were younger about not blinking?
Not consciously. I don't know what the secret is really. And I'm sort of not even that aware that I do. I'm sure I blink much more in regular conversation. I don't know.
Sure. I'm going to ask you a different question. What can you say hypothetically about any sort of role you may or may not have in Eternals?
Crow comment.
Wait, what?
Wait, what? Is that right?
Are you allowed to say anything, or?
I said crow comment, but I don't know if that is cryptic enough.
No, it was too cryptic for me, and I'm going to look stupid to people who are watching. They'll be like,
no,
what?
Even if I could say anything, I wouldn't be able to, and would have to try and kill you through Zoom. Is that cryptic enough? Is that more cryptic or less cryptic?
No, that's much better. I appreciate that. Yeah, down the road, I will ask you questions. I'm actually really excited about Gaslit, which has this crazy cast.
Me too.
What can you say about that?
I can say a bit more about that one. It's been amazing, kind of diving into the Watergate story. I was a huge fan of the Slow Burn podcast about the subject, and playing John Dean, who those familiar with Watergate will know very well. But he was the junior counsel who kind of was the first to turn and testify against the administration, really, and to sort of begin the expose, I guess. And it's very much about the women behind those men. So Martha Mitchell, who was in her own right a big celebrity in the day, whose husband John Mitchell, played by Sean Penn, and Martha Mitchell, played by Julia Roberts, they featured very largely in this story, the sort of behind the scenes story, as did John Dean and his wife Mo, and so it really, it just peeks behind the veil. And my knowledge of Watergate was pretty surface, and it's been amazing kind of looking at yes, this sort of the roots of corruption.
My last thing for you, and I'll try to be very quick. I love learning about actors and their process. If you were getting ready to film like a super emotional scene on a Monday, how are you getting ready for that scene beforehand?
Wow.
It's a big question, sorry.
Yeah. I was talking to an actor the other day who used the phrase trauma harvesting, which I thought was a wonderful description. I'm not sure if I would call it exactly that, but I don't know. I mean, it would very much depend on the scene and the script and the role. I need to know more about this, Frosty. You can't just throw in a scene.
Sure. Well,
have you got a screenplay I could read? Do you have a character brief? Maybe some image, maybe a mood board.
I'll do a follow-up. I'll explain more next time, but
okay.
It's basically just, I'll explain more next time, but I'm always curious if you know, it's like a week in advance, if it's like a day before you're really getting in there, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's okay.
It's very script specific, but I think, you know, generally if in that first read, you've been moved by the scene and you know where that emotion is coming from within the context of the story, that helps enormously. I don't know if that's a very good answer to your question, but there you go.
Totally. Hey, listen, but congrats on this. I look forward to talking about some Marvel thing later.
All right.
Thanks.
Talk soon.